From my experience, and probably most people out there, the way we make decisions on how we spend our money is predominantly emotional, right? That's how consumers make decisions. And so we buy or spend our money on things that we have some sort of emotional tie to, whether it's something that we're passionate about, something that we believe in. And activism obviously plays a role because, again, we spend our money on things that we believe in. When it comes to backing maybe our friends who started businesses, I think, they all go hand in hand, I guess, to answer your question.
Cool. Joe, what you got?
I mean, Andy put it pretty eloquently. He said pretty much everything I would. Just to harp a little bit more on the emotional ties that people have to their money, I always say, I think about like an analogy when it comes to wearing a seatbelt, or texting and driving. People, they can go into a car and they're texting and driving, and they know that it's dangerous to do so, but they're not going to make the decision to really change their habits. But then when you run into someone who had a family member pass away from someone that was texting and driving, or something or the other, now they're more like, it's more of an emotional decision rather than a logical decision. And that's kind of the way I see people operate with their finances. It's when there's an emotional tie to it. That's when they become a little bit more serious about it.
Got you. Now, same question, but targeted toward the Black community specifically. When you think of marginalized communities in America, minority communities in America, the Black community is one of them. We need to examine ethical approaches when it comes to being active about our finances. So that's kind of where those three words came from, right? Finance, ethics, activism. How does that apply specifically to Black citizens needing to support Black businesses? Same question. How do they intersect with the Black community?
Well, to be honest, Ben, I actually think you're the expert here when it comes to this specific topic. When you first came to me, I know you and Joe definitely knew each other, closely and earlier on. When you first came to me and told me about this concept about keeping the Black dollar in the Black community, and then you kind of showed a lot of the statistics and facts to back that up about, when you juxtapose how the Black community keeps the dollar within themselves, and then how the white community or Asian communities or other ethnic communities keep the dollar within themselves. I think it really opened my eyes to understand the importance of it, of, spending Black. In fact, right before this call, I just had some amazing Caribbean seafood pasta. Thanks to your service, Ben. I didn't know that's not something that I really thought about when it came to, how I spend my money specifically on food. I spend money on food like most people, if I'm on the road, in the office. And I never really thought to think, I never really thought about, who is the owner, who is the beneficiary of my dollar, right? And our dollar holds weight, right? And I think whenever we can add a financial impact to, what we want as a Black community in this culture, in this economy, then it's really important, actually critical, for us to be aware of where we're spending our money.
The fact that we just need to support one another. I think, when you look at any of the other communities within America, I see more of like a support system that I wish we would see a lot more within our community.
That's one of my favorite words in this whole movement, man, is being intentional about a lot of things. So, man, speaking of being intentional, let's talk about your business model, your company, your agency. You can talk about what it is exactly, what an exact business entity it is. What is it? Let's start from that. What is it? What do you guys do?
So I'll start this one off because I know Andy's more of the financial expert. He has more licenses. I'm gonna go ahead and give him that, so he'll just fill in any holes that I leave. But ultimately, what we do is we help our people. Wealthline, I mean, we don't discriminate, obviously, but we are focused on the Black community. We help our people learn how to manage their positive cash flow in a way that banks do. All right, so banks are like the financial house where people go and they get these services, and the way banks manage their money is completely different than the way people manage their money. And there's no reason why that should be. Honestly, there's nothing that stops us from doing the same things that the banks do, and people need to realize that banks are for-profit businesses. They're entities just like we are, honestly. And so the ways that they handle debt, and the ways that they handle cash flow, and the ways that they give every dollar multiple jobs, those are things that we could kind of take from and bypass the middleman. And that's essentially what Wealthline Consultants, in a nutshell, what we help people do. Obviously, we can go more in detail, but in the general aspect, that's really what we do.
We're coming upon a change in culture, in how we do things, a change in you have things like cryptocurrency, right? More and more financial institutions are starting to adopt that. We're entering what I think is the age of...
I'm sorry, you mentioned Bitcoin. You know Lil Yachty made his own currency, right?
Did he really?
It's called Yachty Coin. Like, Google it right now. Like, check it right now, bro.
Yachty Coin?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
What was the cause behind all this? Like, when did you actually see that this was a need? Like, what was your vision behind, okay, we need to create some sort of entity that encourages people to think more like banks? Like, what was that? What does that day look like for you?
For me, in particular, like, I've been in the industry for a little bit over 2 years now. And with what I used to do, I was always trying to make sure I leave people in the best position possible financially. That definitely included helping them eliminate debt, not consolidate, but actually eliminate, and prepare for retirement and become financially independent. Identifying how to get people to that level where they can they can have control of their finances. What we've kind of been trained to do as a people is just to let that control go to institutions. Like, you guys control the money, and you guys figure it out for me. And that does not work. It hasn't worked for quite some time now, and it's more of a wake-up call. Instead of just doing what the rest of the industry is doing, why not kind of revolutionize, in this case, the black dollar?
I came to find out that personal finance is very personal. There's no such thing as a one-size-fits-all situation, and everybody's kind of aware that we're entering this new age of the entrepreneur. Everyone's looking for ways to create value, because we understand that we live in a value creation economy, and dollars follow value. And so the way an entrepreneur operates and uses and has their finances, they got to treat their personal finances honestly like a business, like Joe was saying.
Reiterating, our palette is meant to encourage people to change how they spend and innovate how they think. In a nutshell, our palette is meant to innovate black business, specifically black commerce. So what we've been talking about now, with taking the concept of your family bank and using your financial tools to generate more wealth, realizing that the spending power of particularly the black community, because we're members of the black community, particularly the black community, is exponentially greater than the assets of black-owned banks. I think, Andy, you mentioned that earlier. Like, what banks are able to do with people's money is use it to rent it out and make more money. If black-owned banks don't have as many people coming to them with accounts, opening checking, savings, taking out lines of credit, they don't have as much assets to lend it out. So that's a twofold deficit, because they not only have money to lend out to people so that they can make their profit and be able to give more, the people can't get loans. If I'm a small business and I want a bank that would have my community's best interest at heart, well, if that bank doesn't have enough money to give me, then I'm shit out of luck. And it creates a very vicious cycle. our pilot is meant to exploit problems like that and bridge the economic gap between black businesses and other businesses. How might our pilot be palatable, no pun intended, for Wealthline in the future and vice versa?
We share a very similar mission. I think you guys actually just take it to the next level, really. And at the end of the day, it boils down to information. For example, before this year, I didn't know so many things. Number one, I didn't know, like, not to get into, a lot of or rehash some old stuff. I didn't even know there was a Black Wall Street. I didn't know that was a thing. They didn't teach me in school. I didn't even think to know or understand, like, there's black-owned banks. I didn't know. I mean, I'm kind of young, haven't taken out a lot of loans. I haven't had the opportunity to be denied loans, other than I haven't gotten denied student loans. But that's like the majority of the loans that I have. I think that's where it starts, right? It starts with information. And I think that's primarily the problem that we're trying to solve, that also you guys are also trying to solve, with a similar mission to aid, the black community, the marginalized community. I think it starts with information, specifically by maybe having more of these. We have a mission in 2021 to reach and impact over 500 lives, right? And the only way we're going to do that, we can't do it alone. You guys can't do it alone. I think, more of these conversations need to be had, but not just that, but providing actionable steps on, how do I find the next place to get, Caribbean food, or there's a black-owned restaurant, but not just restaurants, not stopping there, which is why I'm so excited about our palette. Is like, it's like the potential there is infinite, right? There's so many ways that we can start to create more economic opportunity for, for the black community. In a lot of ways, our palette is almost not necessarily, but it contains some of the same concepts of a bank as well. When you think about, again, fractionalized banking, I'm not going to get into that, but that loan, it doesn't just stop there. It can continuously be loaned out, right? That money, I can put it somewhere else, and it can. So it takes that, our palette that takes that on a more wide scale. If there's ever a way to like track our dollar, I think that would be very dope.
I'm telling you, it's coming. It's coming. I'm not even a programmer. I'm an engineer. I'm not a programmer, but I know that the solution's out there. Like, that's where we're headed. I don't know how. I mean, with electronic transactions, it's definitely possible, but practical right now, not sure. But oh yeah, I love this. I love this interview. Thank y'all so much for your time. This information is, it's golden. Right? When we talk about the comprehensive Buy Black experience, we are intersecting finance, ethics, and activism. These two gentlemen have an innovative idea that we can all benefit from. So as we progress throughout this series, continue to understand that it's bigger than just person to person. You can scale things up to a community level. And when it comes to your finances, when it comes to where you bank, where it comes to where you spend your money, always look for perspective. And always look for strategy. But anyways, that's it for today. Fellas, thank you so much for your time, Andy, Joe, and we will definitely be talking again in the future. So y'all stay tuned for episode 4 in the Bank Black series, the comprehensive Buy Black experience touching on finance, ethics, and activism. Y'all stay tuned.